I've got a game for you to play. It's the 240 game. We've played it before. You know how it goes. It is the final 7 teams. And Michael Bolton has got his calculator out. Michael.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and last night I went out and I saw Nick Kershaw playing 3 synthesizers on the back of a flatbed truck. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get your season off with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers place a $5 bet, your first $5 bet, and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. So I finished off the mock draft from each position series. ESPN has updated their rankings, so I am going to do, I don't know when, maybe tomorrow, an ESPN points mock draft. Based on those new, well, not based on the new updated rankings, but discussing the new updated rankings with that mock draft. But what we're doing here, and I didn't think this was coming today, but because I told you I was doing that mock draft early and because my son had baseball, but it's been pissing down here for like the last 35 hours, so the field is completely unplayable. So he can't play. So that's been called off. So I'm going to do the 240 game, the last part, right now. And there are a couple of interesting and controversial teams here, as per usual, in terms of how do the minutes shake out. And remember, when we do this, because someone will question it, and they have before, these are not my season-long projected minutes totals for these players. Because when we do this, we have a very set way of doing this on Basketball Monster, and when I project it, which all goes into everything that I discuss on here and everything that I do on Basketball Monster. We try and project games played. An impossible task, but I try to do it. And then we have a total minutes for the entire season. And then we add a percentage on top of that, because A, there are going to be some overtime games. So we can't just do 48 minutes per game because some will be overtime. There will also be unexpected injuries. And I can't go in and just choose a player and say, you will play 20 games. Can't do that. But I know that's going to happen for 20, 30, 40 players. So we look at the total minutes that a season would have if every game had 48 minutes. And we do that. And then we push 5 to 10% above that for season-long minutes. The 240 game is an every night, you are the coach, let's figure out how we distribute these minutes. Because it is all well and good to say that I think Andre Drummond plays 22 minutes a night for the year, which is possible. But it only happens when Joel Embiid is not there, because he plays 15 minutes a night, and then 15 minutes a night, and then 15 minutes a night, and then 28 minutes a night, and then 15 minutes a night. And that works out to 21 or 22. Same as Jaime Jaquez. He might play 28 minutes a night because Jimmy Butler misses 20 games and Tyler Hero misses 10. But on a night-by-night basis, he might play 23 if they're all healthy. And what this gives you an idea is when you're talking and wanting to fluff a guy up, Dalton Connect, about their huge role coming and how good they're going to be, there's only 240 minutes to play with, and a team goes with 9 to 10. And you will see NBA media people and coaches say, yeah, we like an 8 to 9 man rotation. They are lying. Not deliberately, but they are lying. And I'll tell you what they're lying about. Because coaches will have an 8-man rotation. Right? They have an 8-man rotation. 8 key guys. That is what they mean when they say that. But their actual rotation, where they play this amount of guys every night, is 80% of the teams play 10 players every night outside of the last 2-minute blowout. They play 10 guys. 1 or 2 teams will play 11 guys, probably 1. And 1 or 2 teams will play 9 guys. Every other team plays 10 guys. So when a coach says we've got an 8-man rotation, they play 10 players. I assure you of that. I've done this for years and years and years. There is almost no team that strictly runs 8 players. It doesn't happen. There are a handful that run 9. So we run on the assumption that most go 10, some go 9. And that's what we're doing here on the every night basis. And if you see, you'll go, he's going to do more than that. Understand that, yes, it will bump up when someone is hurt, but that reliability of someone being hurt and hoping that helps or helping that boost that player leads you to the on and off and ups and downs in production of guys. We good with that? I hope so. Let's play it. Let's play the game. We ended the last one with the Philadelphia 76ers, so we're going to start this one with the Phoenix Suns. And this is the confirmed starting lineup for Phoenix. We saw it in their preseason game. And what we have seen for Phoenix across preseason is they are just taking way more threes. And we thought Budenholzer would do that because this was a team that has good shooters and they all just said, nah, man, hezzy pull up tween midi is what I want. And Budenholzer said, absolutely, get this garbage out of here, my guys. Take threes. What are you doing? And they're doing it. And I think it's going to be really good. They're going to start Tyus Jones, but that does not mean 30 minutes for me. I think 26 minutes because remember, also, the more minutes that Tyus Jones gets, the fewer minutes that 46% three-point shooter from last season Grayson Allen gets. The fewer minutes that defensive lockdown specialist Ryan Dunn gets. Tyus is fine, but when you are down the stretch in any game, do you want Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant standing around so Tyus Jones can dribble and set up an offense? Or if so, do you want the ball in those guys' hands so Tyus Jones is your spot-up threat? Or your defensive specialist? And the answer is very clearly no in all those cases. So that's why I've got Tyus at 26. I've got Booker at 35, Beal at 33, and Durant at 34. Now that is down from the minutes that they played under Vogel last season. Not necessarily Beal because he was injured early in the season. And that is a Budenholzer staple. And even that 35 minutes for Booker might be high. I've also got Yusuf Nurkic, nay Brook Lopez at 28. Nurkic played his first preseason game, banged in threes. Don't be surprised if we get a Yusuf Nurkic turning into a Budenholzer version of Lopez style player. He might be going a little bit underrated in drafts. Still obviously risk with him. Clearly can't finish at the rim and Budenholzer won't change that. He's never been a 35% three-point shooter or anything close to that. But just keep an eye on him. The bench guys, this is where again, if you're wanting to take that flyer on Ryan Dunn, how do the minutes come? I've only got 25 minutes for Grayson Allen. He played 34 minutes a night last season. So that's why I don't really think Grayson's worth drafting in 12-team leagues. Because if Tyus Jones is getting those minutes, where does it work? I've only got 19 for Royce O'Neal, who they signed to an extraordinarily big contract for what Royce is. I've got Ryan Dunn at 14 minutes, who is now, and by the way, last game Ryan Dunn, 2 points on 30% shooting. But you don't hear that. That's the lies the mainstream media tells you. Because again, it is highlight reel bias and it is very big in preseason. Ryan Dunn's had some immaculately good games. And we highlight them. And fans talk about it. They love the rookie. They love the new thing. The reporters talk about this. I talked about the unbelievableness of Ryan Dunn hitting these threes. But when he goes, whatever it was, 1 of 4 for 2 points in 17 minutes, nothing. And I get why. But we as and the reason I bring this up as fantasy analysts, fantasy analysts in training or waiting, or even just fantasy analysts, you listening, or just fantasy players, you can't just go out and start double-ending guys because they have a big game. You got to look at the bad ones too and understand that all of that goes in together. So I've got Ryan Dunn at 14. I've got Mason Plumlee, the cockroach, at 18. And the last guy I went with, Monte Morris, at 8, but he might not play because I've got him there. Like he is like a Tyus Jones replacement, but Booker and Beal and Durant will handle the ball a lot. So maybe that's a Kogi who's dealing with a hamstring injury. Maybe that's Bol, but where does Bol fit in? Again, this is all the decisions that we have to think about when we're trying to plan out rotations for teams. 6 teams to go. First of all, today's episode is brought to you by Hims. Yes, your sex life is important. It's important to you, it's important to your partner, it's important to me. Your schedule can be busy, and that might impact things. You might not have the time to get to a doctor's office to treat ED. And don't think this is just something to happen to the olds, the 40 pluses, the 50 pluses, the 60 pluses. It is actually common for guys in their 20s to have these concerns. So don't think that you're weird or something's gone wrong. This stuff can be sorted. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. And remember, I did used to be a pharmacist. I know about these things, and I know that they work. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. There's hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers over at Hims, and it can help you find the ED option that works for you. And the process is 100% online, so no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Although, we'll say this, doctors, they're cool. Like, you can actually talk to doctors about this stuff too, and you have to online with Hims to get these products. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That is hims.com/locked-on for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/locked-on. These products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Now, I don't want to just keep talking about boners, but there is that disclaimer at the end of that ad. I think it is important that I talk about what that says just quickly as a one-off thing, because it says, these products have not been verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. And that sounds like, what am I taking? The reason that is because they are getting these products, the raw drug ingredient, whether it's sildenafil or tadalafil, or whatever it is they're using, which is sildenafil is Viagra and tadalafil is Cialis. It's the name of the drug that's in it. They get the raw ingredients and they compounded. That's why it says compound. So they have a lab on site that they are just making the tablets in different formats, whether that's dissolvable things or whatever it is, right? And they're able to do it. The reason it says it's not verified for safety or effectiveness, because the things that have to get verified for safety and effectiveness by the FDA are the ones that turn into tablets, branded, pre-packaged, and sent to be sold. When something is compounded, you don't have to compound each thing and get it sent for testing and brought back. The lab gets tested, the products and all that stuff. There can be spot checks. And I don't exactly know how all the FDA stuff works, but I'm assuming it works very similar to the TGA here. But I just wanted to get that clear. It's not that they're just throwing random stuff in there. It's just the way that they make them. They're not just getting straight from the manufacturer, Lilly, Pfizer, whoever. They are making the tablets themselves. That is why it doesn't go through that FDA process, and that is why you get them cheaper. No more boner talk. That's not true, because we're going to talk about Toronto. Let's talk about the next team here. Portland. And this one, I don't know how true this is. But this is what I have heard from multiple Blazers people recently. We know that Shaedon Sharpe is out. He will not play opening night. I have been told, and this is not privately. I've seen multiple Blazers people tweet this out. And I'm incredulous to it, but here it is. That they think that Toumani Camara will start ahead of Scoot Henderson. I cannot understand what this team is doing, but that is what they have said. So, Simons will start. I've got him at 34. I've got Toumani Camara, again, unbelievably, starting, playing 26 minutes. He's been awesome in preseason. But a Camara, Avdia, Grant combination is so weird to me. But anyway, that is what... Now, I believe, this could also be like a Tyus Jones thing where... And I've talked a lot about Denny Avdia being this 4th, 5th offensive option in the grouping. Now, if he plays in this grouping, in that starting group, he's 4th at least. And Camara gets no usage and then enables more staggering, and I get it. But don't be shocked if this happens. I wouldn't add Camara. He needs 3 guys out and 32 minutes to be 12 team useful. He's been great. I wouldn't add him. Yet. I've got Avdia at 32, Jeremy Grant at 34, and I've got the Snowman, DeAndre Ayton, sitting at 31 minutes. The reserves... I still have Sterling Henderson, Scoot Henderson running at 29 minutes. That could easily be 32. It's just harder to get 32 minutes a night as a bench player. I've got Donovan Clingan getting the 17 minutes behind DeAndre Ayton. Robert Williams is injured and he won't play in the opener. How they integrate him, I have no idea. Will they try and run him as a 4? I guess. But how do him and Clingan or him and Ayton? I don't know. They might try, because otherwise, how do they all get on the court? But I've got Clingan at 17, and then it's a bunch of honestly garbage. And this is what I talked about, the 8-man rotation, 7-man rotation, is that Jabari Walker 11 minutes, Matisse Thybulle 16, and Chris Murray 10. There are no extra minutes for those guys. I don't know who else loses minutes to give them more, but I think they're going to play. And what I keep hearing again is that Chris Murray will be a part of this rotation, even though I don't think he's very good, but that doesn't matter because I'm not Chauncey Billups. I am not a bottom 2 coach in the NBA. I'm worse than that. I'm not a coach in the NBA. That's how I think it's going to work. It could easily change immediately, but that's where we're at. Let's look at the Kings, and their starting lineup is locked in. Darren Fox, 36, Keon Ellis, 25. I do believe Keon starts, but Mike Brown has a very quick trigger. If Keon hits 2 threes in the first 5 minutes, he'll play 30 minutes. If he misses his first 2 shots, he won't see the floor after halftime. Hyperbolically, but basically, yeah. I've got DeMar DeRozan at 36. Now, just be aware, just as I was making this, DeMar DeRozan is away from the team for personal reasons. We hope everything's fine, obviously, with DeMar. We know he's had some personal stuff at times in his past, and also some family members' illness, I think. So just be aware of that with DeMar. but I've got him there 36, Keegan Murray 35, and Domantas Sabonis 36. This is the most healthy team in the NBA over the last 2 seasons. Also, remember, the Thunder were incredibly healthy last season, and they start this season with Jalen Williams spraining his ankle, Isaiah Hartenstein getting hurt, and Pig Williams getting hurt. Injuries come for everybody. But I've got big minutes for all of those guys outside of Keon Ellis, which means that their bench grouping is pretty low. And I think this is a team that is going to be a 9-man main rotation. I've got Malik Monk also sitting at 28 minutes, but that also might not be that high. Remember, they don't have Davion Mitchell anymore, so Monk is going to have to be the primary backup point guard because I guess you could say Jordan McLaughlin gets in there and he's the 10th guy, but like, where do the minutes come? Do we see Monk at 23? Does Alice play 21 to get 10 minutes of McLaughlin? I guess so. I guess it's possible. The other one to watch would be Kevin Huerter, who I think will be available, but I'm not certain on that. I've got him only at 21 minutes, Vanderpants. Trey Lyles, 15, who's possible to play as well. He's questionable. And Alex Len, who comes in, plays his 10 minutes or so behind Domantas Sabonis. And that's really it. The San Antonio Spurs will begin the season without Devin Vassell, who is set to be reevaluated on November 1st. It seems like he'll be back not far after that, but remember, every time that Vassell has come back, he's come back on very low minutes, and he's come off the bench for a little bit of time. Chris Paul, I've got at 29 minutes, and I do believe that Julian Champagny, or Bubbles, I think he will start, but only in a 22-minute role. He started basically all of last season in that role. He is a good shooter. I think he should have played more than that last season, but I really doubt he plays more than that this season. I've got the pencil, Harrison Barnes. And I don't have the sound ready, but I should do it right now. Let's try it again. The pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Do not fall into the trap of drafting or adding Harrison Barnes in 10, 12, or 14 team leagues. I've got him at 30 minutes here. I've got Jeremy Sohan sitting at 32 minutes as the starting power forward and Victor Wembanyama at 34. The bench grouping, again, remember, we play the 240 game because we've got to find a way to fit guys into 240 minutes. And I've got the horse Keldon Johnson at 29. Now, that could become 27. But without Devin Vassell, there's not many players who can score on this squad. And as much as I don't like what Keldon does as a general rule, I think he's going to do that. And that means that I've only got 21 minutes for Steph Castle, who's had some moments in preseason with they've pumped a lot of usage into him. The efficiency's been fine. I don't think any of that exists in the regular season, though. And I've only got 16 minutes for Trey Jones. But remember, I had 29 minutes for Chris Paul. It is conceivable that Jones plays 19 minutes. Maybe even we get 20 minutes of Jones, 28 of Chris Paul. But that would also mean some has to come away from Steph Castle. I've got Zach Collins exclusively as the backup center behind Wemby at 14 minutes. And then the other one I've got in there as the 10th guy is Malaka Branham at 13. Now, I guess you could say Branham might play 10 minutes and those 3 go to Castle. But for some reason, the Spurs like Branham. They could also just not use Branham at all and put someone like Blake Wesley into that position. Although Wesley's more of a point guard, and do you want Castle, Jones, and Wesley all handling the ball? Probably not. But that's how I've got it. And so when you want to look and say, Castle's going to do more than that, Josh, he's the number 4 pick, he's been awesome. Again, where do you take him from? And teams don't go 8. They don't go 8-man rotations. You could say 9, and Branham doesn't play any, and those 13 get distributed. Fine, do that if you want. But that seems unlikely to me that the Spurs will go with a 9-man. The Raptors starting group should be clear, but there's also a couple of injury question marks. Emmanuel Quickley, I think he's going to be okay, but he's got a finger issue, so I've got him 35 minutes there. I've got the prestige penis himself, grade A Dick, at 29. Now, Dick has had some pretty good moments in the preseason, but also some bad moments. Dick was able to get or take advantage of the fact that Quickley and Barrett have been out and get some extra shots. He's done that well, and that's good to see that ramp up. But also remember, when you're playing with Quickley and Barrett and Barnes, how much Dick are we going to get to see with the ball in his hands? That is where that value sort of droops. Now, I think you can take Dick with one of your last picks and see exactly how they want to use that. But honestly, like it's for a guy that's relatively empty overall. When you're looking at Dick, it's a harder thing to get across, I think. Some might say it's a harder pill to swallow. I got Barrett at 35, who's dealing with this shoulder issue. If Rowan does not play, I think they'll start Ochai Agbaji, and he'd be good for about a 100-team league. Scotty Barnes at 35 and Jakob Poeltl at 28, who's been really good. Barnes is one of my... Maybe, should I do a show on this? Okay, all right, chat, ready? Do I do a show of my top 10, 9, 13, whatever, players that I'm watching this season? Would the chat like that? So drop it in the live chat. I may or may not say that, but drop it in the comments as well. Is that a show, for as fluffy and garbage as it is, probably, would you be interested in that? Who are the guys that I am watching? What am I doing that? Eyes. That's it. That's what I'm watching. Let me know in the chat below. Their bench group is a little weird. I've got Kelly Olynyk at 23. Now, if Poeltl is hurt, Olynyk will have to play center, even though he's bad at center defensively. And it'll be great for fantasy, but I don't really get behind the idea of drafting him at the moment. I've got him at 23 minutes. I've got Davion Mitchell at 20, who would almost definitely start if Quickly is out, and that would mean Jamal Shed would move into the backup role. Who Shed, I think, might also be injured. I've got 16 minutes for Ochai Agbaji. Some might say that's 16 minutes too many, but he could also play 28 in a game where Barrett is out. And then the last two spots I've got to 10 minutes to the Wiki Chris Boucher and 9 minutes to Jonathan Mobo. Remembering that both Jacoby Walter and Bruce Brown are not likely to play. Or Brown is definitely out, and I'm almost certain Walter's not going to play. And I can see both of those guys being a part of the rotation somewhere down the line here. Especially Brown, obviously. And then Walter, as much as I don't love his overall fantasy game, I think he's going to get some playing time. But that's how I see that 10-man grouping initially playing out for our Toronto Raptors. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Should I read this just ad hoc? Is that the right word? Verbatim, that's the right word. Hey, NFL fans! You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So, when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and much more on the same page where you place your bets on who has the worst American accent. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. How bad is that? Go to FanDuel.com, check all that stuff out, and now, after you've laughed, and sometimes I think I've got an okay American accent, but I don't think I do. Hang on a second. What on earth is this? I was going to say, there's a thing on FanDuel that says Simmons Futures. I go, are they doing bets on Ben Simmons? But it's not. It's Bill Simmons. My bad. We can go and have a look at the odds to make the playoffs. If you want to, be stupid, you can bet the Boston Celtics at minus 100,000 on FanDuel. I've never seen odds minus 100,000 to make the playoffs. It's there. You can check it out on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, we have got two more teams to cover here. Let's go to the Utah Jazz men. This starting lineup has started all their preseason games. It is, I believe, 100% locked in. The speaker, Keontae George, at 32 minutes. Remember, he played, I think, 27 last season and shot really badly. But his usage, I think, goes up. His assists go up. And his percentages go up. Very, very, very clear candidate to move into the top 100. I've got Colin Sexton, the Padawan, at 30. That might be 32. Improved out of sight. The worry, of course, of him is playing in March or a trade. I think he's sliding into the 90s in drafts, and I love it there. Larry Markin at 33. Taylor Hendricks at 29. He might get the Tom Thibodeau usage treatment, though. Block some shots, hit some threes, and have 10 points and 7 rebounds, which is fine, but just the actual breakout potential of Hendricks with the guys around him is a little tough. And I've got Walker Kessler at 26, but that might be 29 minutes. I like getting Kessler late. He seems locked in as the starting center. Seems. For the reserves, I've got the Baptist John Collins only at 24 minutes. That's why I don't like drafting him until we get to like 140, 150. I've got Jordan Clarkson, the man on the street, Jordanclarkson, at 27 minutes. Shot horribly last season. George and Sexton are ahead of him, but he could easily play 30 minutes, especially with Isaiah Collier out injured. I've got Cody Williams, one of their first-round draft picks, at 18 minutes. Again, you could easily argue that Cody, man, he's the future. He's a 3. He should get more minutes. But where? Over who? I've got Bryce Sensabaugh only at 11 minutes. And I've got Patty Mills at 10 minutes. If you look at the Jazz's last game, they basically played a regular season rotation, just took the top off the starters' minutes. And Mills was the 10th guy, who wouldn't be if Isaiah Collier was healthy after he pinged a hammy. I don't believe they should be playing Patty Mills. I don't think he's up to it anymore. But their other options are like John Juzang and Svima Hailuk and their point guard. I would just play Clarkson's point guard. So Mills might not get that. And maybe he doesn't play and we see Sensabaugh and Williams push to 18 and 21 minutes or something. But at the moment, that is what they ran with last game. Mills was a part of that. So I do think that there is a chance that that's what they go with. The final team in the 240 game is the Washington Wizards. And I'm also fairly confident of this starting group. I've got Jordan Poole at 32 minutes. BBL, Jordy. Bilal Coulibaly at 30, which could be 32. I've got Kyle Kuzma, the future MVP, at 34 minutes. I've got Alex Sarr at only 30, but easily could be 32. And I've got Jonas Valanciunas at 27. Now, in one of the, I think it was the last game that the Wizards played, Sarr started at center and Valanciunas came off the bench. I don't believe they will do that immediately, but I do think that later on, Sarr will move to center. But I think that Valanciunas, the reason they signed him was just to provide some protection for Sarr, and then hopefully they trade him on later on in the season. So that is what I think that starting group will look like. Their reserves, there are 2 players who are injured who won't be a part of it. One of those is Sadiq Bey, who may make a return in March, but I don't think so. And the other one is Malcolm Brogdon, who's out for about a month or 6 weeks with a thumb injury, as per usual. I've got Corey Kispert only at 26 minutes. I seem to be in a minority with Corey Kispert, and I have always been there. Didn't like him as a draft prospect, hated where they drafted him, thought he was very overrated as an old player, and basically for fantasy, people still go, nah, he's actually really good, I like what he does. I don't see it. I have seen Corey Kispert have strong moments in March when 1 million players go down, and he gets to do a lot. I don't think he's going to start. I think he's going to be a 6th man coming off the bench, Corey. And why would you want to prioritize him when you've got Poole, when you've got Bilal, and you've also got Bob Carrington? Why would I prioritize Corey Kispert? But I do have him at 26 minutes. Not enough for me to care in most leagues. I've got Marvin Bagley at 17 as the backup center, but Rashawn Holmes and Tristan Vukcevic are there. Vukcevic on a 2-way, and I think he'll get minutes in March, but not really much early on. I've only got Bub Carrington at 18. And remember, people are drafting Bub Carrington in 12-team leagues, but like we always say, this is part of the point of the 240 game. How does Bub get anywhere near enough? Poole, Bilal, Kispert are all there. Bub will be a rookie point guard who suck. Bad efficiency. Don't know where his usage will be. Defensively, he'll be pretty bad. He'll be a rookie point guard who also doesn't have a path to volume, I don't think, at this point. And if you want to get Bub to 31 minutes, where do you get 13 from? Now, easily, again, you could say, take Jared Butler out of this rotation, which maybe they do. Butler was also part of their main rotation last preseason game. Don't know that he will be, so you could take those 10 minutes away. I've also only got 16 minutes for Keyshawn George, who's been equally as impressive as Bub through the preseason. Last game wasn't as good. And he's the one who started in place of Valanciunas. He, in Miami, was just a shooter, but he developed a few other things, or didn't develop, sorry. Some of the stats showed up differently in those first few preseason games, so we'll see what happens with him. And he looks solid. But finding more minutes means taking Butler out, again, possible. Taking Kispert down to 17 minutes. And eliminating Valanciunas and starting Sarr at center, which all seems really unlikely. But that's the joy of this game. That's the fun of me doing this. That's the fun of you playing it. The fun of other people doing analyst stuff is that they'll look at this and they'll say, Josh, of course, Bub's got to get 26. But the main point of this game is that it's all well and good to say that out loud, that Bub's going to get 26. And he might. Figure it out. How does it happen? How does he do it? Does Brian Keefe play 9-man, Butler's 10, go to Bub, he plays 28, and then we're off and running? Would it be realistic that all of those 10 minutes go to Bub and some of them don't go to Kispert or 2 extra go to Bilal? You plan it out. Remembering that nearly every team runs a 10-man rotation. Nearly every team runs a 10-man rotation. These rotation and 240 game predictions will not be correct. There is no way I will get all of these correct. There will be weird rotations. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I was trying to predict like Celtics rotation. We go, oh, Rob Williams coming off the bench is going to be really interesting, 23 minutes. And the first big man they brought off the bench was Noah Vonleh. And I was like, what is this? What is this team doing? Vonleh was cut a week later, and Williams moved into that larger role. But there is going to be unbelievably crazy stuff that happens in the first week that will not be representative of anything moving forward. Rookies will get pushed down. They will step up later. There will be stuff that goes, this makes no sense. Sometimes you have to trust yourself, but sometimes the coaches don't realize it or don't want to do it, or the front office has different ideas, and it doesn't happen for a long time. Two of the ones that are really standing out to me like that are Bub Carrington and in Miami, Khalil Ware. I don't know how they're going to play enough. I want them to. I like them both. I had them both higher than where they were drafted in the real draft. I think I had Ware at 10 or 11, and I had Carrington at 6. Right? I love them as players. But I don't know that it gets to the spot where it needs to get to. The spot that you need to get to is subscribing. It's following. It's audio. It's video. And it's giving me double bangs. You've got Hims. You've got Dick. Let's do it. Leave your comments down below. Good luck in your drafts. See ya.